Hey guys, it's that time of year. Time for our fall tone downs. And this is the color that we're going to be doing today. And here's a shocker, I'm only using one bowl of color. For this service, we're going to be mixing 509 NG and 507, and this is the permanent line with 13 volume. I was going to use my SoColor 10 volume, but I didn't have any, so that's why I'm using my 13 volume. All right, so this is only the second time that I'm doing my client's hair. The very first time that I had done her hair, we were adding some dimension. She felt like she was just overly blonde, so bright, and she felt like she wanted to break up her hair and add a little dimension. So some of these colors that you're seeing in her hair that are a little bit more brassy is the fading from the previous colors that we have done. That is something you guys need to talk to your clients about. When they are really blonde and they're wanting to go a little bit darker, you have got to tell them that you're eventually gonna be warm. The color that we're putting on your hair, because you're so platinum, that we have to add warmth into the formulation, or else it's going to be hollow, it's not going to hold, it's going to fade out. So we have to fill your hair essentially. That's why I'm using the 9NG and I'm using a permanent color line. I feel like any of the times that I've used like Schwarzkopf, when it's on super bright blonde hair that's overly processed, like I feel like it looks hollow. I feel like it doesn't grab very well no matter how much I try to fill it. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. I don't know. So that's why I'm like, I'm just going to use this permanent with like 13 volume because that's what I have today. So that's what we're doing. I'm foiling up the back of her head. I'm doing a full foil, but I'm not packing them in like super heavy back to back. I'm just making sure that she has even coverage all over. And then I'm kind of doing like a herringbone foil where it's like two on the sides and then one across, two on the sides, one across, two on the sides, one across, like as I'm working my way up. So that's essentially the foil pattern that I'm going to be doing for this whole back section. So let's go back to the very first time that I did her hair. She was very, very bright. And I told her, a lot of people, when they're adding dimension to their hair, they don't want it to be warm. They don't like warmth. People are afraid. We've like conditioned everybody to not like warm in their hair. Everybody wants ashy, but we all know that you can't have ashy. It's not going to hold. It's going to fade out. We have to have warmth in the hair. We have to add back those tones that your natural pigment that the hair is missing, or else the color's not going to grab. So please make sure you have these conversations with your clients that are toning down and they're super bright. You have to let them know, hey, we have to put some warmth in your hair. I know you might not like it. I can try to control it as much as possible, but we have to do it and explain the reasons why. Grab a swatch book, whatever. Show them the reasons why the underlying pigment is. Show them if we're doing a 7, this is the underlying pigment of a level 7. If you don't have this in your hair, it's going to look hollow. It's going to fade out really quickly. So we have to add that back in there. And so I can control it by adding a little bit of an ash tone to the formulation, but that ash is going to fade out and what's going to be left over is the warm tones. Explain it to your clients. Tell them. You have to tell them. You have to. So many hairstylists, I feel like, try to withhold information because they know it's probably going to make their clients like unhappy and they're not going to want to do it, or you have to let them know that, because then they're going to come back to you and be like, oh, why is my hair so brassy? Why is this color fading and it's left over like a really warm color? If you were to explain this to them from the very beginning, they would know this ahead of time. Like my client, I told her, Your hair might not your hair's so blonde, even though we're filling it, like it's gonna fade. No matter how much I fill it, you're so processed that it's gonna fade out no matter what. So just know whatever we do, it's gonna lighten up and it's probably gonna fade a lot warmer. So today when she came in, she was like, "Oh, you're right. It did fade out, but I was expecting that since you told me that." It was not a problem at all. She was just very like, "You're right, it faded. You called it, it faded." And she didn't have a problem with the tone. She didn't even say anything about it, like being a little brassy or warm or whatever. Like she didn't even care because it was something that we had already talked about. So I told her, okay, now that we're coloring your hair for the second time, the color should hold on a lot better this time. It probably won't fade out as fast, but just know that it probably will lighten up slightly. So just make sure you're having honest conversations. I mean, there were times when I've been doing hair for 20 years. There's times when I was trying to like, I want to be a people pleaser. We're in this industry because we want to make people happy. But what happens is we want to be such a people pleaser that like we don't share information that we need to because we know it's not going to make the client happy if we tell them the truth. You have to get over that, get over yourself. You just have to be honest because in the end, if you don't share something with a client and then it ends up happening, they're going to be like, why is my color so warm? Well, because we had to put all these natural tones, whatever. Just, you need to let them know. They're going to go through with it usually. At least you're going to prepare them for it. Anyway, sorry about the long tangent. I'm just very big on being open and honest with your clients. So, yeah, anyways. So we use 9NG half and half with 7N, the 507N. And this is the gold, the gray coverage series, the 507, 509. That's why I didn't use just straight like 7N or 9NG because I wanted to make sure it has more pigment in it, just like as if it was covering gray hair. So here we are moving on to the side. Sorry, I like talk and ramble a lot. So here we are moving on to the side. She wants to stay a little bit brighter around her face because we are toning down. So that's why you see me like pulling on the side, her like money piece facial framing highlights. So that way she can be a little bit brighter around the face and not feel like she's just super dark. So we're going to be making our way up her hair. And you're going to see that I'm starting to pivot a little bit. I'm going to start doing like an angle. I don't want to do just like straight across foils because then when she pulls her hair back, it's going to look like she has lines, like dark lines in her hair. So I'm doing like straight across, pivoting, doing more of an angle. And the back foils that I was doing up the back section of the head, I was running the color all the way through the ends. You'll notice in some of these foils, and you'll see because I put like a little line on the screen. You'll see in the video that I'm trying to create a little bit more dimension in the hair, keep her a little bit brighter around the face. I'm not going to run the color all the way through the ends like I did in the back. So you'll see in some of these foils that I'm going to swish it through the ends, but I'm going to do kind of like where it gets, I'm not dragging the color as far through the ends, higher to closer to the face. So that's going to create it to look a little bit more brighter around, not just like necessarily the money piece, but also like in this on the sides of her head, she's going to have a little bit brighter through the ends too, because we're like swishing it through the ends and not extending the color all the way down through the ends of the hair. Another thing is we were talking about doing highlights, but when I saw her hair, I was like, actually, like you hardly have any grow out. Like if I go through and try to do any blonde retouch, I'm afraid that you don't have enough of a grow out and it's going to potentially overlap and cause damage. And so I think that we could just go through and do a foil with the darker color and your hair's gonna blend perfectly fine to where it looks like your blonde highlights are fresh anyways. So that's why we ended up doing that today. Okay, here's that diagonal that I was talking about just earlier. And I do this through most of these foil, not every foil, but like every other foil, I'm doing a diagonal that way on either side of the head. Another conversation that's really important to have with your clients when they're toning down and adding dimension, whether they're going darker or just adding a little bits of dimension, is because the hair is so porous, it's hard to know exactly how much is their hair going to grab the color. So say you're going through and you're adding like a level 6 to a client that has blonde hair. If their hair is really porous, two things could happen. Three things could happen, and one of which is not very common. Two things could happen. It could suck that color in and absorb so much of it that it almost grabs like a level 3 or 4. Or it grabs it almost perfectly, but then it washes out and it fades out within like a few washes. The third option was that it just like turns out perfect and it's a level 6, it's a perfect level 6, it doesn't fade as or option 3 doesn't happen very often, if ever. So make sure you ask your clients, what would you rather me err on? Would you rather err on the color grabbing a little bit darker initially, but then it ends up fading out over time and it sits at maybe what you want, maybe, 3 weeks later? Or would you rather it look good today, right now, but then, fade out really quickly? Talk to your clients. That's like, we have a whole 20-minute, 30-minute consultation before we even started the service the very first time. And these were all things that I brought up to her. Okay, you're extremely bright blonde. A lot of times when blondes just tone down half a level, they feel like they've gone to the dark side. So are you really sure that with adding this dimension, if you want to do like a level 6, what if it ends up grabbing a level 4? Are you going to be okay with that? Or are you going to feel like, oh my gosh, I just went really dark. This isn't what I wanted to happen. You need to have those conversations with your clients or ask them, like, maybe because we don't know the end. This is something that I talked to her about too. Maybe because I've never worked on your hair before. We've been blonde for so long. We've never added depth in the hair. I have no idea how your hair is going to grab the color. Maybe we just do a really soft, light-handed amount of a foil today. Let's not go in heavy-handed because we have no idea what the color is going to do. Is it going to grab really dark? Is it going to fade out really fast? Are you going to be happy with the color when it fades out? Or are you going to feel like, why do I now have all this brassy color in my hair? What did I do? These are all really important conversations to have with your client. Because again, I never talk to my clients about what are we doing today. I talk to my clients about what are we doing today and how is it going to affect services when spring or summer comes around. What are we doing today and how you are a blonde and you want to go cowboy copper? How is it going to affect your hair when spring comes around and you want to be blonde again? And now you're orange because we have to lift through all that red. And then it's going to take you about 2 or 3 years to be blonde again. Are you sure you want to do that? Trust me, I've had these conversations and it's important to have because then either clients will be like, wow, you really told me that I wasn't going to be able to be blonde again. I should have listened. Or they're like, wow, I'm glad I knew ahead of time. I mean, you did tell me and now at least I can prepare for that. So again, these are just all conversations you need to have with your clients. Like consultation is so important. Don't ever go in there looking at a client and just like, okay, she's blonde and she wants to go dark because it's fall. Well, okay, but when spring comes back around, is she going to want to go blonde again? So a lot of times I'll just talk to my client and be like, hey, are you for sure that you want to go bright blonde again when spring comes around? Maybe we don't go dark. Maybe we just tone your hair down to like a level 8 and just blend your roots so you're a little bit rootier and it looks like a soft root shadow. And then we, tone your blonde. That way you feel toned down. You're a little bit darker, but it's not so much that you're like, holy cow, I'm a brunette. And then basically by the time spring rolls around, your toner is going to fade out. You're going to be bright blonde again. And then all we're going to have to do is worry about re-lightening your roots. Like it doesn't have to be difficult. But if you add a whole bunch of color pigment that you have to break through, it's either going to cause damage or you're going to have a lot of unwanted warm tones. So again, these are all, please just talk to your clients. Please just talk to your clients. Anyways, so here we go with her hair again. Oh, by the way, the whole foil, I'm doing like, I'm not doing a weave where I'm like picking up hair, dropping hair, like where you can see a weave in between. I'm basically just like in some parts picking, like you can see like it's a weave, but it's not like a super patterned weave. Everything is still going to blend really nicely. We don't really necessarily want to see like lines of a weave in the hair. We just want to make sure that it blends really good. Again, we're not doing any foils in her hairline when I'm saying toning, but I'm not like deliberately toning her hair. I'm just mushing everything together. When I'm toning her hair, I am going to go through and brush the color on her roots. Again, remember I said at the beginning, this one bowl of color, I overmixed because I knew this is what I was going to do. So I have her one bowl of color, the same formulation that I'm using on her hair right now after it's sat for like 2 hours. So it's basically like, it's not going to do a whole bunch, but it's going to do enough. I'm going to go through and paint it on her, like on her money piece and just swish it like right on her roots and then just swish it into the blonde to help blend it and soften it a little bit more. Because I don't want to use a fresh bowl on her roots and then have it shift her roots and like, she's got a little bit of gray coming in. And I don't want to necessarily like cover up all of her hair. I just want everything to blend together nicely. So using this bowl of color that I've been using throughout the whole service and not using a fresh bowl, that means that it's not going to like lift and deposit a whole bunch. It's just going to blend everything and kind of deposit slightly. So I don't even have a dryer. I'm just going to put a towel on her head to help it keep the heat in and help process the color and help it insulate a little bit better. I don't ever use heat on hair usually. I just put a towel on. So you can see I'm using that bowl again, same bowl as literally when I did my foils, and I'm just going through, I'm pulling the foils out, and then I'm going to go through and hit her roots for like a root blend, root shadow, root something, whatever you want to call it. So pulling the foils out, everything blends really good. I just want to blend her previous blonde a little bit more. It's already pretty blended really good, but I just want to blend it even more. So we're going to go through and just hit this top section and then a little bit down the back side and blend those roots out. I didn't do this all over her hair because the top is where it was a little bit heavier of a blonde color. Like the underneath was already pretty blended. I don't know if the person that she went to previously did like a super heavy, like full foil or a partial or whatever. Anyways, but she just didn't have that much of a line of demarcation throughout the underneath part of her hair. It was just mostly like up on the top. So that's why you see me going through and just basically the top section and down over the sides, you see me go through and like hit her roots. And this is going to sit for about 10 minutes. And right there, I'm just barely tapping her money piece right there. Just a little bit so that it kind of softens it and blends in with the color. And you see it was just a little trickle of water. I didn't want to have too much because I didn't want to oversaturate the hair of water. I wanted to, just add a little bit of water so that I could emulsify this throughout the length of her hair, throughout the ends of her hair. I'm just, again, same color as before. I didn't remix or anything. I'm just taking all the color that's in her hair, added some water so that I could emulsify it a little bit better. And I'm running it through the ends of her hair. So the stuff has sat on her roots for about 5-10 minutes. And then I wet her hair down and then I ran it through the ends, not the money piece. I ran it everywhere through the ends for a few minutes. And then the last few minutes, you see that I'm grabbing her money piece section and I'm incorporating that with the rest of her hair too. And then I let it sit for another like 7 minutes. I wanted to make sure that the blonde around her face was still nice and bright, but we just needed to tone it down a little bit more so that it wasn't like such a stark difference. So there's ways to do this in steps. You just have to be intentional with your application. You can use one bowl of color and be intentional with the way you apply everything and have it look like you used about 3 different bowls, 3 different like steps, root shadow, color melt, money piece, whatever. But really, we just use one bowl. So you can see here, nice dimension, blended the roots a little bit, and then you can see that she's a little bit brighter through the ends. And I really like the way that this color was. This color, it's just kind of like it actually doesn't have too much warmth in it. It grabbed nicely. She's really happy with the color. And you can see that she's brighter around her face. And then even the ends of the hair there, like it's a little bit brighter from the way, remember that diagonal that I showed you guys? It has a lot of nice natural brightness like through the ends. Everything blends really good. And then you can see there that her roots blend really nicely from doing that like really quick root shadow that we added at the very end. So yeah, I really love this. She was super happy. This color actually turned out a lot like better than I thought it was going to. I wasn't sure that it was going to grab very nicely just because, you know, this is only the second time I've done this client's hair before. So I'm still like, you know, sometimes I tell people like, give me like up to 3 tries to make sure it's perfect. I always tell people that. Give me 3 tries. It's hit or miss the first, second time, but the third time I should get it right by that time. So anyways, here's the after. Look at how nice it covered. Here's her before again. Look at how bright she is. Man, sometimes when I go back and I see that before, I'm like, wow, we really were bright, weren't we? We really were brassy. So you can see she has some brassiness in her hair. We blended her roots nice and soft for fall time, but still will be considered a blonde. Everything blends really nicely. Look at those old highlights kind of showing through, but they just blend so much better now. And she's still a blonde. She's just not like a bright summer blonde. She's just now definitely more of a soft toned down blonde. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you like this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I appreciate you watching. Oh, this is my Instagram. If you want to follow me on Instagram, go ahead and find me at Modern Blonde by Christy. That was for my Instagram stories. I thought I'd just share those, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you. Bye.